Welcome back to the Mage Meetup, where you listen to a wizard talk about the things he likes and hates in gaming. And I gotta be honest, I am pretty proud of myself for what I've been able to accomplish in this sub-series infancy so far. I've been able to put out a Smash Brothers true combo of consecutive videos shit-talking things that I don't like in the gaming industry. It's what I do every now and then. I don't know. But we all know that a good combo is better associated with a good drag down, a up air, a certain hairstyle. So I want to metaphorically supply that boost to this series today, talking about something that I actually like in gaming, or really something that I like to do in my personal gaming lifestyle. Because if I relied my happiness on a company like, let's say, modern Nintendo, I'd probably be more stimulated in prison. And I'm sure that it should come as a surprise to no one that my happiness in this medium comes in the form of offline gaming. More specifically, more right now with the original Nintendo Switch and how I've been using it since I've obtained it late in its generation. Something I sadly now feel lucky to do, given the current climate that the most current console generation is setting with its almost perpetual online requirements. I'm not a fan of how the industry is moving right now, which is why I'm personally moving as slow as Xenoblade 2 story pacing to make my eventual way over to Nintendo Switch 2. Also, since almost every game they launched alongside Mario Kart World we've already owned, so like, I digress. But while I do have some good yap in store for this slightly overpowered tablet, I gotta first lay the groundwork on how I've always associated offline gaming with Nintendo and their just whole ecosystem of consoles, because my first Nintendo experience was with the N64. Right after that, it was the VTech, which doesn't have anything to do with the video, but if you grew up playing with that console too, congratulations, we're locked in now. Now, I never outright owned this console, nor do I really remember anything much of it from my childhood, but the game that I played was A Bug's Life on there when I was really young over someone else's house. I don't even know whose house it was, but I just remember that console's unique, bona fide Rubik's Cube branding, and me being a young acolyte just playing that game without a care or a worry in the world. I didn't even know any spells yet. Then there was a brief period of me playing GameCube for a while at my uncle's house since he owned one of those consoles, and at that point I was playing a lot of movie games since it seemed that DreamWorks couldn't even think about pushing out a movie if they didn't have a licensed game to release simultaneously. Played a lot of Sonic, not much else, not really any Nintendo licensed product on a Nintendo console, which is really ironic, but I'm hoping you're starting to see a pattern right now, because even though this was the 2000s, playing games over the internet just wasn't a concept in my life or any person that owned these consoles that I was playing on, especially the GameCube, because Nintendo was trash about supporting that for online play. I mean, that's just, they dropped the ball on that big time. And then fast forward to the first Nintendo console that I actually owned. I had the Nintendo Wii, which I owned during a time where my household, I think, got broadband internet for the first time ever. So, you know, while I obviously could connect it to the internet, again, because of previous generations and even having other PlayStations and shit during that time as well, I was already primed to not connect it to Wi-Fi and just experience that console by itself, because you could, and there was like a genuine option. So I basically experienced the entire Wii generation without internet well into like the 2013-2014 period. That was a very long stretch. Then from that period on, I had a really long Nintendo hiatus, which fast forward to 2023, I got my first Nintendo Switch for less than half of its retail price. Thank you, eBay plugs, thank you God. And if you watched my previous Nintendo Piracy Mage Meetup video, you would know that by this point I would have had prior alleged experiences with Nintendo Switch, so I had full intentions of playing this Nintendo console, just playing the things I already played offline, and just for the few new games that I wanted to experience. Those games, of course, being 3D Mario, the new Zelda games, and Pokemon Arceus, because I refuse to believe that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was canon. That was not a canon event. But when I did that and got my console, obviously I had to connect it to the internet so I can install my required updates. I mean, I'm basically a noob at Nintendo Switch at this point. I didn't know that you didn't have to connect it to the internet, but I still did, and I got all my updates and everything. And I'm not gonna lie to you, my first month, when you get something new, by this point the Nintendo Switch 2 was completely new to me. So like everyone else, when you get new shiny things, you know, we like to just experiment a little bit just to see what the hell it's about, like especially if it's like a new console or like you just built a new PC. And I decided to hang my nuts a little bit and splurge, dropping 4 big ones on 1 month of Nintendo Switch Online. I can't lie, I did it. And when I tell you that was the most wasteful $4 I ever spent in my life, I did not do shit with Nintendo Switch Online with the 1 month I had of it. Someone's calling my phone. The whole point of base Nintendo Switch Online, like what I think the main sale factor it has for the casual players, is to be able to play freaking Mario Kart 8 online with other people, since that is a game that hugely benefits from its multiplayer aspects. Obviously, you know, there's a save cloud data features, getting discounts on certain games and whatnot, but I think most players just get this to play Mario Kart 8 and whatever other multiplayer game that they play online with Nintendo Switch, which I know is going to sound really crazy, and just prepare yourself for what I'm about to say. I don't own Mario Kart 8, and I never have. I've only played it like 1 time in my entire years of existence as a wizard. I know I've disappointed you. I just fucking leave. Yeah, man, like I've said in my previous videos, to me, my Mario games are the 3D, 2D, and 2.5D Mario titles. That's what I consider, you know, canon events in the whole Mario realm of things. Mario Kart isn't bad, I never cared to play it. If I wanted to play a racing game, I'll play something like Forza or Gran Turismo. I'm more into like actual cars and shit, if that makes sense. So with that, you can only imagine how much, you know, money I've saved not paying for any of these online services, because the Nintendo Switch system, it's hugely, I would even say it's mainly an offline console. I mean, there's obviously the online functionality and whatnot, but I would say it benefits so much more just playing it offline, since there's just so much you don't have to worry about as far as payments goes. Obviously, every game that does have it really benefits from having that eventual patch that you would have to download over the internet, especially that non-canon Pokemon game I mentioned earlier that you just should never play the day 1 version of under any circumstance. But luckily, at least with the first party games that I really only play on this system, you can play them directly out the box, which is one of the best factors of, you know, the Nintendo Switch console that I really wish wasn't getting Bowser cock-blocked by those extreme price tags that the Nintendo Switch 2 is boasting with its $80 games. But quite honestly, man, like I've already said like twice in this video before, I don't associate online gaming with Nintendo. Like, I just think their games are better enjoyed single player. They make some of the best single player experiences, and that's just how I've been enjoying my time with the Nintendo Switch in the what now 2 years I've had it. Like right now, you can see in the background I got a Zelda Tears of the Kingdom guidebook that I've been using and making it feel more sacred than the goddamn Bible. This is truly one of the best single player experience games that Nintendo has to offer, and how lengthy it is you could just see with the girth of this freaking book. Pause. And the crazy part about it is I'm not alone. I read some of you guys' comments on my playing modern consoles offline video, and a lot of you said that you do the same thing on your Nintendo Switch or a lot of your even other consoles right now. So the fact that Nintendo is kind of, I don't want to say they're not taking this into consideration, since we do have the game key cards that you can still, you know, pass on to another player, but the fact that, you know, these downloads and everything are just still such a huge problem. It does worry me for the future of Nintendo console, but luckily we still are in an age where at least the first party games you can play directly on the Switch 2 out the cartridge. But I would still definitively say that the Nintendo Switch 1 is the best Nintendo offline experience console that I've had to date. Like, I have had so much fun in the short amount of time I've had this console that I really hope I can replicate on the Nintendo Switch 2, at least in half of its glory, because the Nintendo Switch 1 is just legendary. Not accounting for stick drift, but that's something else.